So now we will look at pandas. Pandas is a library that is very useful when you're working with tabular data of any kind. So it has data structures to handle tabular data, and also it has those functions built in which you would need very frequently for any search query or manipulation, right? So we will look at how to create data frames and how to work with such tabular data. Right? So when you're reading tabular data, the data structure that enables doing this is called a data frame. Right? So one of the central data structures for pandas is data frame. Everything will be based around that. Right? So one of the simplest ways that you can create a data frame is using this syntax, where you have your all the rows defined in forms of list, and you are just creating a data frame out of those rows, where you are also giving specific column names. Right? Once you have done that, your data frame will look something like that, right? So once you print your df, print df, that is a data frame, it will print the complete data frame. Now you can do certain filtering operations quite easily, right? So you can see that this statement, this comparison statement is there, where you're comparing age, the age column against a particular number, right? So what this comparison will give is essentially all the, it will give so if there are 3 rows, it will give you an output of three elements, and it will consist of boolean values, true or false, right? So for every age value that is equal to 25, it will give true, and for anything else that doesn't satisfy this statement, it will be false, right? So the output will be true, false, true. You can print that also and see. Now when you're giving this boolean evaluated boolean values to the data frame, what it will do is it will just print the values for which the evaluation was true, right? The false ones will be discarded. So that's what is happening here. So only the rows where age is equal to 25 is getting printed. Now you can change this with any other evaluation statement that you might want, right? As I said, one of the most convenient thing about pandas data frame is that you can operate with tabular data. And tabular data, when you're querying from, let's say, databases, or you're working with other data sets, they are usually available in CSV forms or in spreadsheets, right? XLS or XLSX format, right? So this is just a piece of code to download those CSV files and spreadsheet files. So if you look at here, we are downloading a CSV file that is containing COVID data, right? Time series COVID data. And here we are downloading another XLS file which has essentially some tabular data around certain employees of a company, right? And their salaries and such information, right? So if you were not to use any data frames, pandas data frame, you can still read a CSV file. You can read all the lines, and you can split them based upon the commas, and you can extract the columns out of it, right? This is what this piece of code is doing, right? So it is extracting the countries. So this CSV file that we are talking about, it has a column called country and region, right? So what it is basically the second column, right? So this is what this piece of code is doing. It is iterating through all the rows and creating a set of unique countries, right? This is done by without using pandas. You are reading a file, you are reading all the lines in a file, and you are doing certain operations on top of it to extract the name of the countries, right? Now if you were to this was these many lines of code. Now if you were to do the same thing with pandas, what you can do is that pandas, as I said, it has certain functions, inbuilt functions, which allow you to handle and manipulate this tabular data very easily, right? So it has a function called read_CSV, and you can just give the file name, and it reads the whole thing, right? And out of that, you can then just pick up if you want just the unique countries in that one particular column, you can just call this function .unique, right? So you said df, this is the data frame that you had read, and you said df, you select a column within that, right? So there is a column called country/region, and you're saying that give me the unique ones out of it, right? And then you can return it or print it, whatever you can do, right? So as I said, pandas will essentially help you do this functions quite easily with a simple function call, right? So that it reduces the amount of code you write, amount of code you write for doing simple things, right? So here we saw a function called read CSV for reading a CSV file. Now for reading a spreadsheet, Excel file format like XLS or XLSX, right? There is a function called read_Excel, right? For reading XLSX file, you have to mention an engine called OpenPyXL. So if you do not mention it, this function will not be able to read XLSX files. It will still be able to read XLS, but the newer formats, X formats, it will not be able to read, right? So that's why I'm mentioning this engine specifically, right? Another thing that might be of interest is, let's say if your data frame, this data frame is containing 1 million rows, right? But you just want to look if you want to get a look and feel of the data, you just want to print, let's say, the top 10 rows or top 100 rows for that matter, right? So that is where this function comes into picture, head, right? And head, you can, and in the brackets you can specify the number of rows that you want. If you do not specify the number of rows, it will by default print the top 10 rows. So head and tail are there for that purpose, right? So another function that is associated with the pandas data frame is called describe. What it does is that it will describe the particular columns, right? It will, by describe it, I mean it will give you the count, the mean, so basic statistics of it, the 25th percentile, 50th percentile, max, and all of that, right? Max, min. So what the statement here, what it is doing is, it is selecting 2 rows out of the data frame. There are many columns, but it is selecting only 2 columns, salary and 10%, and I'm calling a describe function over those 2 columns, and it is going to give you this basic statistics about those 2 columns, right? Now if these columns were not numbers but rather text, this behavior would be different, because of course there is no mean or standard deviation for such columns, right? So that was described. Now if you want to understand what are the different columns present in your data frame and what are the data types, right? So df, this d types will essentially do that. So you can call d types on any data frame, right? So this df is the name of the data frame that I have defined. This is just a variable name. This could be any name when it comes to your application, right? And so the d types will list the type of that particular column for all the columns that are there, right? So there are these many columns in the data frame, and for each there is a type. Some are floats, some are integers, some are objects, some are date time, right? Now remember this date time, we'll circle back to it in a while. Okay, so as I said, you can, one of the simplest ways that you can define a data frame is by giving it all the rows and then mentioning the column names, right? So you can see here there are names, there is some number, I'm assuming this is age, and there is some date, and there is some time, and there are some other data associated there. Now so for now this date, and this date is essentially a string, because it is within a quote. But date time, but so if you are just reading this as a string, now you cannot do any operation over this, any date time operation over this, right? So if you want to subtract 25th October, subtract a date from another date, this is not possible as long as they are read as strings, right? So that is where you can convert them into a date time object, right? So date time object will give you certain functions, certain possibilities, like you can subtract 2 dates, or you can do comparisons over date, like any date that is more than this, right? So all those are possible if a column is converted as a date time, right? So that is what it is doing here. It is converted the C column is the third column. I am converting it to a 2 date time. Again, this is a function that is inbuilt, right? So I'm equating the third column, I'm converting the third column to a date time object, right? So now if you print the if you now print the data types, you can see that C is changed to date time. Okay, now coming to the next one. As I said, there are certain advantages to converting into a date time. So if you want to just extract what was the from the date you can extract day name, what was the month, what was the hour, and all of this, and this might help you in certain analysis, some exploratory analysis, right? So as an example, I'm taking here 100 rows of certain data from Delhi traffic police challans, right? I think that is this data. So you have your vehicle number, you have the date and time on which the offense was committed, where was it committed, what was the detail of that offense, and what was the amount of challan that was issued, right? So all of that is mentioned as a list here, and I'm converting it to a data frame here, right, while I'm mentioning all the columns, right? So so you can say that I'm calling this function called add date part, which is this function, right? So first thing this function does is that it takes that particular column, whatever column that I'm passing, that is the offense date, right? So this date is converted into a date time object, right? From that date time object, I can extract day name, month, and hour, right? Now this is not possible if you have not converted this into a date time, right? If you were just a vanilla string, converting or extracting the day or month or hour would not be as simple as it. You would probably end up writing a few more lines of code to do that. It's still possible, but it will take some hard coding something into your code base, right? Because you can still extract the day from here, you can still extract the month from here, you can still extract the hour from here, but it will not be as simple as writing this lines of code, right? That is the advantage of converting into a date time, right? So yeah, and after that the offense day, month, and hour are added here as additional columns, because that is what this function is doing here, right? Okay, right. So then okay, once you have extracted this, then you can plot some basic data out of it, like which month saw the most number of challans issued, right? So you can see that there are these 3 months that is possible, right? So for extracting this also, you did not struggle hard. You just said you selected the particular column, this offense month column, from the data frame, and just said plot.hist. Hist is, it will plot a histogram, right? So for this column, it will plot a histogram. Now similarly, then there is a offense detail. Offense detail is overspeed, red light jumping, etc., etc. Now let's say you just wanted to figure out what was the for each offense, what was the number of counts, right? How many challans were there for overspeed, how many challans were there for red light jumping, and all of that, right? And you wanted to plot that. Again, very simple with a data frame and pandas, because you can just select the column, value underscore counts will give you for each value what were the number of counts, right? So for each value, that is for each overspeed, how many times overspeed occur in this column, how many times red light jumping occur in this column. So you're generating counts for each of these values, right? And then you can just plot that, a bar chart. So dot plot will give you a and in the bracket you have mentioned kind is equal to bar, right? So for plotting this also, you did not do a lot of coding. It was just you using the same data frame application or a function associated with that. You had just made use of that, right? That is what you have done here, right? So the next one is something called group by, right? So as we discussed here, there are different offense. There are different offense types, and you can then just categorize, group everything based on that offense, right? So you're saying group by offense detail and then count, right? So for each offense detail, what was how many vehicle numbers were there, how many offense dates were there, how many different or how many different places were there, and all of that, right? So based on this very single function, you can easily conclude that red light jumping had 42 unique vehicle numbers, right? and it was this was committed at 42 unique places and stuff like that, right? So based on these graphs that you could plot and based on this chart that you could easily generate from that data frame, right? What you can one can realize how easy a pandas makes such analysis easy, right? For getting this kind of analysis, you don't end up writing too much of code. There are easy function calls that are there, right? So this helps quite a lot when you're doing exploratory analysis, when you're looking at your data for the first time and trying to figure out what is this all about, right? So we looked at group by, and then there is another function called apply. So what apply will do is essentially and the argument that you give for this apply is a function, like some function you have given, and what it is doing, it is taking a string and it is discarding the last two characters of the string. That's what this will do, right? It's saying that take into account only discard the last two characters in a string, right? So if I'm giving this string and I just want to discard this x and x, right? That is what this will do, right? So you have a column, and the column contains all the vehicle numbers, and you want to discard the last two x's, right? So the first instinct would be probably to loop through all of these rows, right? All the rows in this particular column, and call this function, right? So instead of doing that manually, apply does this for you, right? It will apply this particular function on all the elements in this, right? So you have selected vehicle number from the data frame. You have selected that particular column, and then you are applying this function over, right? So it will discard all these last two characters for all the rows in that column, right? Okay. So now we'll look at few other functionalities that are associated with pandas. Functionalities like how to concatenate, how to merge, and how to few more examples of group by and apply and all of that, right? Okay, so these are simple function import calls where you're importing pandas and numpy, and these are two functions. This particular function make df is what it is going to take two arguments, calls and end, and it will create a data frame out of it, right? So let's take an example here. I'm giving it ABC and I'm giving it three numerals, 1, 2 and 3, range of 1, 2 and 3, right? So range of 3 will give you 1, 2 and 3. So to make that clear, I'll just so these two will be passed on as arguments to this, right? So what it will give is it will have values from 0, 1, and it will have values 0, 1 and 2. It's an iterable, right? So if you give a, b, c and the numerals, it will create a data frame like this, right? a0, a1, a2, b0, b1, b2, right? This will be the columns and this will be the rows, right? So if I give range 5, you will have another two columns, right? A3 and A4, right? So you can create any kind of any size data frame based on this. So this is just for testing purpose, just for visualization purpose. We are dealing with this small data frames, right? And this display is basically what it will do is it will display a data frame easily, right? So let me take an example of how display works, right? So you can just take whatever data frame. If you want to display 3 data frames, you can just pass those data frames here, right? So for this tutorial purposes, we are using this display function. Otherwise, you could also make use of head and those kind of functions which allow you to look at a data frame, right? So for the tutorial purpose where we want to show you examples, we are making use of this display function, right? So I'm just mentioning the utility. If you want to understand how this is working, please have a look. I'm not going to go through that at the moment, right? So we're going to look at concatenation first, right? Let's say you have two series, right? So data frame is where you have multiple rows and multiple columns, right? Then you can also have a series where you do not have multiple columns, but you just have a row, right? It's a single dimension. It's not, it does not have 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions to it. It is unidimension, right? So what you have done here is you have created a series called ABC and DEF, and you are concatenating one to another, right? So you can see here series does not have additional columns, it has only one column, right? It has index and one column, right? So what we did was we created ABC, DEF, and we concatenated those two, right? This works for series, but the concatenate function would also work for data frames, right? You created a data frame of shape 2 by 2 where you have 2 rows and 2 columns. Similarly, 2 rows and 2 columns, and you are concatenating these two. This is similar to what we have seen in NumPy, where you are concatenating 2 arrays, right? Now cut. Right. So similarly, concatenate can be called on 3 arrays as well. So you have created df1, df2, df3, and you can concatenate them, and it will result in this. Right. One more thing is that, as we have seen in NumPy, you can concatenate at the row end, or you can concatenate at the columns end as well, right? So by mentioning the axis, what we are doing is that we are concatenating df4 not at the bottom of df, this df3 and df4 are there, right? We are not concatenating df4 below df3, but we are concatenating them side by side, right? So this is concatenating at the columns end. This is done by calling the axis, right? So then there are for each data frame, for each row there is something called an index, right? So this index can be configured to be ignored, or it can be continued as is, right? So you can see here y index is same as x index, right? So x index was 0 1, y index is also 0 1, right? And when you concatenated, this index ideally should have gone to 0 1 2 3, but since you choose to ignore it, was 0 and 1. So if you said ignore index, it would have gone to 0 1 2 and 3, right? Since you had specifically mentioned index here, it went to 0 1 and 0 1. And there is something called hierarchical index as well, where you have hierarchy in the indexes, right? You have 0 1 0 1, and the 0 1 of this data frame comes under x, 0 1 of this data frame comes under y. So there is a hierarchy if you want to do that, right? Then there are similar to, like, if you are familiar with databases, there are joins in databases, joins, left join, right join, outer join, inner join, all of that, right? So all of that is possible in this pandas data frame as well, right? So you can mention a specific join name, and that will result in a different letter, right? So if you had not mentioned it, there were certain columns which are missing from these two. Those are filled with NaN. NaN stands for not available. I mean, these values are not available. These are not zeros or anything else. These are not available. These are a different category, right? When you did an inner join, the result was this result is as similar to what you would have seen if you had done a inner join on a database, right? So there are other variations to it, where you can do one-to-one join, or many-to-one, many-to-many, and you can also specify on which particular column to do this, right? We'll share this notebook with you. I request you also to go through this and understand for yourself what are the different variations in it. Okay. So now we'll go to aggregation and grouping. Now let's say we are downloading a simple data frame of planets, right? So when you said head, it is showing the top five rows of that particular data frame, and this data frame has a shape of, it has one planets dot shape. This has 1035 rows and 6 columns. These are the 6 columns, right? And this data frame essentially has data associated with planets. There is a method of, I think, calculating their orbital period and orbital speed, and there are other rows associated with that, right? Right. So another thing is that all the aggregation functions that you saw in NumPy, where aggregation functions like sum, mean, average, min, max, and all of them will be available for in pandas as well. So you can take a column and you can get the sum, the mean, or any such aggregated function out of it. Right. So let's say you have created a data frame you have a data frame of two, two, two columns and around 5 rows, and you can calculate mean on each of those rows, and you can also calculate mean when you mention if you change the axis, you can calculate calculate the mean on a row wise basis as well, right? So all those functions that you saw in NumPy, any aggregation function would be available here as well. Right, so this describe is something that we have already seen. So what this is something new probably. A drop NA, what it will do is on the somewhere in the data frame above we saw that certain cells were NaN. NaN means that those values are not available, right? So what drop NA will do is basically it will drop all those values and it will ignore all those when it is trying to compute this mean, standard deviation, all of that. Right. We saw what group by does, but I think it is also important to look at how it can be used effectively, right? So you have input this using split. So you have certain keys, right? A is repeated 2-3 times, B is repeated 2-3 times, C is also repeated 2 times. So you can split A separately, B separately, C separately. You can apply any aggregation function on top of it, like we saw sum or mean or average or whatever. So for each key you will end up having one value and then you can combine, right? So if you given this large data frame, if you wanted to segregate this data based on one column and you wanted the aggregated information out of that column, you can do that using this, right? So you have key and data based on you can group them based on a column, and over that you can apply a aggregation function, right? You can apply any aggregation function on top of it, right? One more, so if you were to actually do this manually, again you might have iterated through all the rows and then taken out for, let's say, this method, this radial velocity has this method has some unique values. Radial velocity is 1, imaging is 1, eclipse is 1, and so on and so forth, right? These are the unique values, right? For each of these method you wanted to calculate the median, mean, or sum or whatever, right? So you can what we have done here is that we pick out all the rows with that value, right? So if there are in this 1000 row data frame, 1000 plus row data frame, we pick out all the rows which have radial velocity, which have method is equal to radial velocity. Similarly for imaging and all of that, right? So this dot unique, this planets method dot unique, when you're calling dot unique on a method column, what it will do is it will pick up all the unique values in this column, right? And for each of those columns, what you're doing is you're finding the median value, right? So you take all the rows which have that particular value in the method, and then you're taking out the orbital period, and then you're calculating median on top of it, right? Now you can do this for any rows. You can do this for this particular column or this particular column or any which one, right? So what we have done here is you have taken for each of the unique method name, you have calculated the median orbital period. Right. So one other thing that you could do either through this, or you can do this through group by, right? Where you on the planets dataset you call the group by method based on method, and for each method you have sum of all the particular values that you have, right? So sum of each column, right? You can replace this sum with mean or median or anything, and it will still work out to be the same. Okay, now that we have looked at group by and its functionality, Now there are a few other things that you can do with pandas data frame is aggregate, filter, transform, and apply. Right? So let's say over and above, once you have grouped by, then you can aggregate them based on and give any function as an argument, right? So you have particular keys, repeating keys, and you have certain data around it, right? So if you wanted to have multiple let's say multiple aggregation over those over that data, you can call that, right? So once you have grouped them, for each of those unique keys, you are aggregating them based on min, np, median, max, right? One thing that you would possibly notice is that the different ways that you can pass on the arguments here, right? You can pass on a numpy function, you can pass on a normal Python function, and you're passing a function like this, which aggregate is able to recognize, right? Then there is something called filter, right? So you have this data, and for each key you have certain means, right? For this column you have a mean, and this column you have a mean. Now let's say over this data frame you wanted to filter out filter out the on the original data frame, on this data frame you wanted to filter out anybody who doesn't have a mean less than 3.5, less than or equal to, right? So that is what this function is written, right? This function is going to take a take a column, and it is going to return anything that is whose mean is greater than 3.5, right? So you are going to apply this function. You are going to pass, you can pass this function as an argument to this thing called filter, right? So once you have grouped a data frame based on a key, then you can filter out certain rows, right, based on any aggregation function, right? This is not straightforward when you're doing this. I mean, if you're not using this kind of a function like filter, group by, or transformation, if you're not using this, writing this manually would not be as easy as this, right? So what this filter allows you to do is to filter out certain rows which satisfy a certain aggregate condition, like aggregate condition is this, right? Mean, whose mean is greater than 3.5, less than 3.5, right? So you can see that anything with mean 3.5 is filtered out, right? Anything that has mean whose data 2 columns mean is less than or equal to 3.5 is filtered out. So all the B rows, all the rows associated with key B are filtered out. Only A and C are kept from the original data frame. Right? You could have done that similarly for data 1. You can choose a different you can alter this data 1, you can alter the threshold, and associated rows will be filtered out, right? So similarly we have seen here that you can apply different aggregation functions, you can filter out, and you can also transform, right? So what you have done here is that from each you have subtracted the mean of that, right? So this function, this lambda is a Python way of implementing functional programming, right? So for each x it will subtract that row's mean from it. Sorry, not that row's, but rather that key's mean from it, right? So you can see that everything is subtracted from the mean is subtracted from that. So there are certain examples in this whole notebook which we have also kept, but I have not explained in particular. I request all of you to go through them and raise any questions if you have. Right. So now we will go to Matplotlib, the last part of this tutorial. In Matplotlib, as we discussed, is a tool for creating visualizations. And the basic anatomy of a Matplotlib plot is this, right? You have your canvas, it's called the figure, and you have your axes, right? And you can you have your title on this. This is on top of it is a title. You can add your x and y labels, right? And you can define the major ticks, right? These are minor ticks. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, these are major ticks, right? And the intermediate ones are called minor ticks, right? You can plot a line, you can plot different markers, and you can have a grid, right? So this dashed line is a grid. You can add a legend and all of that, right? So we have already covered how to install it. It's simple pip install or pip3 install matplotlib here. So the basic unit or the basic class that you have to use while plotting is called pyplot, right? So you can import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, right? Now you can plot in matplotlib using normal lists, or you can use and it can digest numpy arrays as well, right? So you can define two arrays. These are not arrays, sorry, these are two lists, normal lists, they are not numpy arrays, and you can just say plt.plot x comma y. You are just saying x and y, right? Now there can be many and plt.show is just going to show that plot, right? Now there can be many variations to it. First thing is that you can have different kinds of plots, right? You can have a bar chart, you can have an histogram, and so on and so forth, pie chart, and so on and so forth. So there will be different functions associated with, right? And apart from mentioning x and y, you can, as we've seen above, you can add labels to your axes, you can add a title to your figure, and so on and so forth, right? All of that can be added on to the same line, right? That is the variation that we'll see. As I said, you can have different you can have a different kind of a chart, a different kind of visualization, right? If you wanted to do a bar chart on the same data, you can say x and y, right? Next thing is you can have different colors. You can add a color palette to it, right? And you can say instead, so there is a difference between bar and bar h. Bar h will do a horizontal bar graph. Similarly, you don't want to do a plot. What plot did here, it was that for each data point it connected it using a line, right? What scatter will do is just scatter all those data points, right? Then histogram, this is something that we saw earlier when we were discussing pandas, but if you wanted to draw a histogram, you can also do this. You can call hist on a data that you have, and you can specify number of bins that you would want and all. As I said, matplotlib can deal with normal Python vanilla list and also can deal with numpy arrays. So here we have defined an array of 100 points between 0 and 10, and we are plotting sine and cosine values on top of it, right? So here we just said plot np.sinex. You might notice that we have not specifically mentioned any x-axis or y-axis separately. That is one of the advantages that you have when you are passing it numpy value like this. Now all the numpy functions that you had, like sine, cos, tan, pi, you can make use of them in plotting here, right? One of the things that you can see here is that you plot whenever you call plot on the same PLT, all of those lines will be plotted to the same figure, right? So if you were to plot sine indifferent and cos indifferent, what you would have to do is you have to create a different plot, right? And unless you do that, all of those lines will be plotted to the same graph. Same can be seen here, right? And one thing is that you can create you can mention what are the axes, limits of your axes, like the y-axis should be between between 2 and -2, x-axis. Similarly, you can, using plt.xlim, you can dictate what are the limits of your x-axis, right? So for each line, let's say that you have drawn some 10 lines in this figure, but you also wanted to show which line is for what, right? Because that is crucial, right? That is what legend will do, right? For each of the plot you can add your label, and when you say plt.legend, it'll show this box as well, right? Where each line is shown, whether which line is tan and which line is sine, cos, and so on and so forth. Now there is an added functionality where you can shift the location of this legend as well. That is something I'll leave for the for you to figure out on your own. One more thing could be changing the line type, right? So when you're saying plot, in all the previous graphs you could say that it was a simple it was a simple line with the variation in colors. But here what you could do is you can also mention whether it should be dash, double dashed, whether it should be x's or asterisk and all of that, right? You can see that line behavior changes, right? So in Matplotlib, what we have seen is that we have looked at how to do simple plotting, how we can add different legends to it, and we can have different types of plots, different types of line variations, color variations, and all of that, right? So this is very basic functionality of Matplotlib. There are of course complicated cases, but you can probably, this is a good starting point where we can from where we can figure out how to do the complex plots. So that will be all for this tutorial. Thank you for listening. If you have any queries, feel free to put it on the discussion forum. Thank you.